Happening today, the 10-day federal trial of the Sutherland Springs shooting has wrapped up closing arguments.
The tragic shooting happened in November of 2017. That year, the Gun Violence Archive reported 347 mass shootings. Over the next few years, we saw those numbers increase, with the exception of 2018. In 2019, there were 417 mass shootings, and last year, there were 610. For 2021, we have seen 156 mass shootings so far. According to NPR, the United States has a higher rate of gun violence than other countries. Closing arguments and rebuttals in the Sutherland Springs trial took 2 hours today. The next step in the Sutherland Springs trial is now in a federal judge's hands.
The lawsuit the judge is contemplating alleges the Air Force failed to communicate important information about the gunman to the FBI, which plaintiffs believe could have prevented the mass shooting. Eyewitness News reporter Zach Briggs breaks down the final arguments and explains what's next.
The plaintiffs' legal counsel representing victims' families affirmed the position that the U.S. government should be held liable in the Sutherland Springs church shooting. They argue no one knew the gunman better than the U.S. Air Force, pointing to the perpetrator's obsession with firearms, research of mass shootings, and domestic violence conviction. In 2013, the gunman was barred from returning to Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico because of such threats. The plaintiffs' counsel stressed the events of November 5, 2017 were foreseeable and preventable. Meanwhile, the Air Force's attorney says regardless of whether the federal government knew about the gunman's dark past, the mass shooting would have happened, emphasizing there were other avenues for the individual to buy firearms. The defense says the federal background check system can be effective in preventing certain people from buying firearms at FFL dealers, which stands for Federal Firearms License. However, private sellers in Texas are not required to run background checks prior to making a transaction. The defense concluded its argument by referencing one of the gunman's online posts, quote, "I am the angel of death, no one can stop me." This quote was cited to show the perpetrator's determination in carrying out the act despite any barriers from the government. Both legal teams will submit findings of fact and conclusions of law by May 21st, where a judge will then rule on the case. Zach Briggs, KENS 5, Eyewitness News.